Hello, everybody. Welcome to It Was Tuesday with your host, James Chen, aka J Chenzor. That would be me. And we are going to be talking all about the France premiere coming up here right now. And, needless to say, the results are going to shock you. Not a clickbait here if you guys are tuning in. And I'm not talking about who won and who didn't win. I'm talking about character stats over here. So if you guys remember, after the Singapore premiere, we did a bunch of analysis on the character stats usage. So that is what I am going to talk about today from the France CPT, because the France CPT threw everything completely out of whack over here. Let's review the Singapore stats real quick, just so we can catch up to where we were. Oops, this is the wrong screen here. Let's do that. There we go. So this is the Singapore premiere over here. If you actually look at it, remember we saw that Ken, JP, and Luke just completely dominated the top 64. Like, that was it. Like, Manon and Ryu didn't even show up at all, and everybody else was kind of low, except for Chun-Li and DJ. So Chun-Li and DJ doing pretty decently over here, but literally Luke, JP, and Ken dominated, but, you know, kind of fell off as things went on. You can see Luke dropped a lot, but there was a lot of JPs. And the JPs stayed pretty dominant for a long point until we got to top 8. And of course, Kakeru was the only one standing here. So that was kind of the situation that we had from the Singapore premiere, if you guys remember that, right? And yeah, you're all going to be like, One Guile? What's going on? I mean, I don't know, Lurker Spine. You might actually be kind of right, because once we start moving to the France premiere, oh boy, this actually threw everything out of whack, okay? Like, everything that we knew, like, I was like, all right, so Singapore premiere showed us that clearly JP, Luke, and Ken are the best characters in the game. You know, JP was dominating, but I was still insistent that I don't think JP is the best character, that I think Ken and Luke are still stronger than JP. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I really do think Ken and Luke are the strongest characters. And even Angry Bird has been talking about how Luke is potentially stronger than Ken. And so, you know, my order was Ken, Luke, and JP, but a lot of people will tell you JP is the best, and a lot of people will tell, and now some people are starting to talk about Luke being better than Ken, especially what we saw with Chris Wong versus Valmaster, when Luke decided to do 70% damage in one combo. Oh my god. I mean, yes, for sure Angry Bird is, you know, people are going to say he's a Ken player, so of course he's going to say Luke is better. But, you know, let's take a look at these results over here from the Singapore premiere, France premiere. Let's get into it, because this is really fascinating. So the first thing I want to point out was that at the Singapore premiere, of course, 2 characters did not show up at all in the top 64, and that was Manon and Ryu. These 2 characters just had no representation whatsoever at the top 64 of the Singapore premiere. So, are we going to see the same thing? Are Manon and Ryu going to suffer here once we actually move to the EU side of things? Well, very fascinating. And before we start, does anybody know what character Moose TTV Dodd played, or Phoenix Ryuzetsu, or Wooly played? Those are the characters I want to know, because they're the 3 that I do not have the results on Start.gg. Start.gg and Top 64, they did a good job putting up all the information of who used what characters, but these 3 characters were DQ'd. I don't know why, but they had played previous matches. They were DQ'd from the Top 64, and they had no results. But immediately, when you look at this, the first thing that stands out is that there are 0 Akis, and Aki is the only character that has no representation. And the funny thing is, a character that I consider really, really strong, Blanka, is literally one Blanka. And I think we all know who that Blanka is. But it's surprising to me to see so few Blankas representing. But let's go to the other side of the things over here. Ken is at 7.5. So Ken and Luke is at 6. So still very, very strong. Now, from some sources that I've looked at, one of these 3 players here might also be a Luke player as well. And one might be a Jamie player. So Jamie might actually be at 1.5. Luke might actually be at 7. I don't know what the last one is, but like I said, if anybody happens to know, I tried looking up these players. I couldn't find who they mained. So if anybody with better Google Foo than I do can find them. But the other thing that stands out here is now up with Ken and Luke is Cammy. Cammy is a character that I have famously said is not as strong as I think, as I don't think is as strong as other people do. Now, if you remember from the Singapore premiere stats over here, I talked about the precipitous drop of Luke, JP, and Ken as we go up here. Like, JP stayed up there, but Ken and Luke went from 10.5 and 9.5 to 3.5 and 2.5. One of the things that I was talking about is that, you know, characters carry, right? Characters definitely carry. And so what we're looking at here, are we going to see the same thing from Ken and Luke, and especially Cammy here, right? This is a massive outlier. 7 Cammies here in the top 64. This is really, really, really impressive. Oh, Blanka and Honda. The last one was Moose TV is so he's a Honda player. Interesting. Okay. So let's throw Honda up here a little bit. So that's down to 1. So Moose TV Dodd is a Honda player. Wally is a Blanka player. Oh, so we actually do have 2 Blanka players. Okay, nice. That's good. So let's move Blanka up a little bit here. And then you said Yuzetsu is Dalsum. Dang, good job. How did you find this information, dude? Your Google Foo is better than mine, Lurker Spine. I'll tell you that much right now. All right, so if that's accurate, and you know, even if it's not accurate, it's good enough. This is close enough. Close enough. Katy Perry, when the next synchronize is, not sure. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I'll have to talk to Olaf about that. But with Hinaku dropping, I'm sure he's gonna be wanting to talk about that. But yeah, Cammy at 7. This is really interesting. Now, everything else here seems pretty normal here. We've got a large amount of DJs and Chun-Li's, just as we did in Singapore. Chun-Li 6 and DJ 5 over here. Now we have 5 DJs and 4 Chun-Li's. We have a surprising amount of Hondas and Guiles here. Now, last time, Honda only had 2 and Guile, there was only 1 the entire time. This time we have 4 of each of these. But the thing that is all completely messed up and confusing here is not this. This is the surprise here. We went from 10.5 JPs in top 64, where he maintained a 6.5 in top 32, to only 3 JPs in top 64 at all. Now, I have heard that Japan believes in JP so much more than a lot of the other world. Now, obviously, everyone thinks JP is strong, but apparently Japan is in particular, or Asia in particular, is really big into JP. So that makes sense why we would see so much more JP in the Singapore top 64 than in France. It's only 3 JPs here. Do I think Cammy is not able to stun after 2 combos? I don't know what you mean by that. There's no stunning in this game. Do you mean killing in 2 combos? It could be the mass DQ of Japanese players, but Gundam Jehudi Kai even says JP is not a common sight online in Europe, which is really, really, really interesting. But yes, this is the thing here, as Shay says, that this top 64 might not be a representation of the actual strength of the characters. Whoops, now I can get rid of this here, like that, because we have all 64 here. However, this is really interesting because, and for my satisfaction of being able, and this is spoilers on getting to top 32. As I said, characters can carry, right? But how strong are they in the long run? Are they able to carry players to the highest levels? In other words, if you use someone like a Luke, can Luke carry you beyond your means, etc., etc.? Well, the most interesting stat for me as we jump to top 32 is that Cammy. Because we go from 7 Cammies to 1. So, as I've always said, Cammy is a very difficult character to use. And Cammy is very, very, very hard at high levels, in my opinion. I still think Punk makes Cammy look way stronger than she actually is. And so we have the situation here where we literally go from 7 Cammies to 1 Cammy. We lost every single Cammy in existence. And what's interesting is we go from 3 juries to 1 jury as well. Some people, a lot of jury players these days are saying jury is not nearly as strong as a lot of people think she was. And the results from this and the Singapore tournament support that. So in top 64 at Singapore, there was only 2 Cammies and 1.5 juries. And then basically jury disappeared. Oh no, there's a 0.5 jury and 1 Cammy in top 32. I'm starting to think Jury and Cammy are 2 characters that are not nearly as strong as a lot of people say they are. The results I'm starting to get here is that Cammy and Jury are characters that are highly carried by the quantity of people that use them because of the fact that, one, Cammy, if you don't know how to fight Cammy, she's just going to dive kick all over you. And Jury just might be harder to navigate than people think, as I found out, as I tried to use her, and I was like, this character is awkward as hell. Jury is very weird. So it's really interesting to see Cammy and Jury having so much trouble here. But we did obviously lost some characters, right? Like I have Aki as 0 here, but I don't list the zeros up here anymore. One of the interesting things about this, though, is not just Cammy and Jury, but JP goes from 3 character usages. For those of you who already didn't look, how many JPs do you think are in top 32 at this point? 0. JP in the top 32 at France is the only other character besides Aki that has 0 usage. In top 32, every character was represented by a player, whether they were played or not. For example, Marisa 0.5 was, I forgot which player it was, one of the players that is oh dude, fix Aki. Yeah, for sure. Faye jumps in the chat and says fix Aki. Look, she definitely needs some help. The JP players here, let's take a look at this. If we go over here in the top 64 here, the JP players were Center Ripe. So we've got Center Ripe over here. And then we have, what was the other one? Thorox. And then, let's see here. Don't see JP here. And Kyungster. So Kyungster, obviously a very, very strong JP player, right? The other 2, I don't have any intel on, and obviously we don't have the Kakerus etc., etc. But again, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the top 32 over here. So we went from 6.5 to 3, and then JP there was only 1, right? And it was just Kakeru who was doing a lot of the damage over there. Basically, what I'm saying is that I don't know if JP necessarily carries players as much as we think they do. Broski, where is Broski? Let's take a look, actually. Where did Broski end up here? Also, by the way, I still really... Oh, Start.gg is the hardest thing to navigate in the entire world. Let's see here. How does this work, dude? Like, seriously. How do I actually find Broski in this thing? All right, he's got to be listed here somewhere on this. Oh, come on. Broski. Attendees. Right, so I'm doing that. Oh, okay, so I can do it like this here. So here he is. Here's Broski. So I click on his name. 193rd. 193rd place. He did not even make top 128. He did not make top 128 here. So he's 193rd. Actually, I think that, yeah. But in any case, he didn't make top 64. So what we're seeing here is that JP goes from 64 to nobody, which is really interesting. So I think another side of the argument should be objectively looking at characters' tool sets. There are just too many caveats and circumstances in real-world results and characters some top players may pick. Oh yeah, of course. These results are not be-all, end-all, say-all of tiers. I mean, if we're judging by this, Aki and JP are the 2 worst characters in the game. Clearly, that's not the situation here, right? So clearly, JP is still top 3. This results is not going to belie JP. It's not going to say that JP is not top 3. I think JP is clearly still top 3, but I don't think JP carries as hard as a lot of people think. And I think as people are slowly but surely learning the weaknesses that JP have, I think that that actually helps a lot. I do still think that Ken and Luke have no weaknesses, which is why I still think they are the 2 best characters in the game. Nobody, like, they just have no weaknesses. They can handle every situation. If they need to be defensive, they can. If they need to be offensive, they can. There's like nothing to take advantage of. And yeah, 0.5 is the characters that use half. So for example, Kichipamu used Zangief and used Lily. So he switched between Zangief and Lily. So I counted Kichipa as half of each of those characters. But that's the really interesting thing here. But the really interesting thing, and this is the part that I love the most, is that outside of, you know, Aki being a little bit weaker and the newest character, and 2, JP, this complete JP anomaly. Okay, this is an anomaly. I'm not saying that this is any proof of anything outside of my theory that JP is actually is the 3rd best character in the game. This kind of leads credence to that. But the most interesting thing about top 32 is that between the 32 players in here, we have 18 out of 20 characters represented. Even if some of them are 0.5 over here, even if some of them are 0.5, like, we have every character except JP and Aki represented. So again, JP is an anomaly. But again, this leads credence to the fact that this game is extremely well balanced. People like to try to talk about this game as not being a balanced game. But we literally have, look at all these characters with at least 1 character represented here. And clearly the strongest characters are still Ken and Luke. Chen and DJ are rocking along, but the interesting thing is that Guile. Now, someone in the chat said this, and I didn't even think about it. Guile obviously has a harder time against JP. It's not an unwinnable fight, as NuckleDo has proven these days, because he studied the matchup a lot. But the fact that there aren't any JPs making Guile go from 4 usages in top 64 to 4 usages in top 32. That's interesting. That's actually really, really interesting here right now, is that Guile didn't drop off at all. So we went from the Singapore premiere where literally we had 1 Guile and then the Guile disappeared by top 16 to having 4 Guiles in top 64 to top 32, and it just didn't change. Well, Snake Eyes didn't travel to this event, Airtola. Snake Eyes is already qualified, so Snake is like, what the hell do I need to go anywhere for? So again, this is why I'm saying Cammy is not as strong as I think people say she is. She went from 7 players using Cammy to freaking 1 player using Cammy. All the Cammies got taken out. Every single one of the Cammies got taken out except for 1. And who is the Cammy that didn't get taken out over here? Let's see over here. Who is the Cammy that somehow managed to survive into the top, I believe top 16? They made it all the way there. Let me see. Cammy. Yeah, there it is. Mizuha. Mizuha was the last Cammy standing. And Cammy is... Mizuha is clearly a very, very, very strong character right there. So... But yeah, here we are in this top 32, which is really interesting. Now, once we get past top 32 to top 16, things start to normalize a little bit. We've lost a lot of characters here, but Ken is still the highest representative here. But what's interesting is that the Dhalsims are now surviving. We went from 3 Dhalsims to 2 Dhalsims, and we still have 2 Dhalsims. Now, the 2 Dhalsims that we have representing here, if I'm not mistaken, are Mr. Crimson and who was the other Dhalsim? The other Dhalsim is another supreme expert Dhalsim player. I can't remember which one he was here. Where is the other Dhalsim player? Top 16. Zaffarino. Yeah. Zaffarino. So yeah, Zaffarino, Mr. Crimson, 2 excellent Dhalsim players. So no surprise that the Dhalsims are representing here because we've got, you know, that kind of representation here. But if we look at this between top 16 from the 2 games over here, you know, we're starting to see, you know, fairly consistent results here. But Chen and DJ, I think, even though we dropped from 3 Chuns to only 1 Chun. And interestingly enough, this Chun isn't Moke. Moke actually dropped out before this. This is Valmaster, who was doing some damage over here. But, you know, it's starting to really look like that consistently here. DJ, Chun, Luke, Ken, and JP might just be the top 5 characters in the game right now. But even at this point, we still have an E Honda. And again, Kichipa is the Lily Zangief here. So Kichipa is also a ridiculously amazing player. So, you know, this is probably a little bit of an outlier as well. But, you know, we get to the top 8 here. And now things are starting to, you know, flatten out a little bit here. So we have the Ken, we have a Luke, we have 2 DJs. You know, we have the Chun-Li, Guile, which everybody says. It's neat to see Rashid here. And again, the Rashid is a different player than last time. Obviously, Gachakun didn't travel here because he's like, I qualified already. See you later, suckers. And this is Oil King here. But clearly, this is showing that Rashid is stronger than a lot of people probably gave him credit for. Potentially, again, they are being used by Gachakun and Oil King, which is, they are amazing players over here. But you take a look at this here, and what you're actually seeing here is a pretty well spread out game. We have 7 characters in the top 8. 7 characters in the top 8. It's really, really strong. And I want to keep in mind here that I've counted Mena as only being a Blanka player because of the fact that towards the end, that's all he was playing. I don't remember if he played Luke at all at the beginning. So we had 2 in top 64, but then top 32, 1 Blanka, top 16, 1 Blanka, top 8, 1 Blanka. Again, an exceptional player making a lot of the rounds over here with 1 character. But then we get to the top 4, and sure enough, Blanka, Chun-Li, DJ, and Luke, right? I mean, and again, these are a lot of largely, you know, when you look at the players who are actually using these characters, you're like, well, duh, right? I mean, obviously, the Blanka was Mena RD. Chris Wong, who got second place. So remember in the Singapore premiere in top 4, there was 1.5 Lukes, and same thing with top 8, but the half the Luke is Mena RD. So we have Chris and Mena RD in 2 top 4s in a row. So it's just like, dude, Luke is ridiculous, dude. But I mean, look at this. Look at the top 4. Look at the top 4 here. We got Blanka, Luke, Chun-Li, and Rashid. And now we've got Blanka, Luke, Chun-Li, and DJ. So, I mean, it's not that it's necessarily consistent. I think it's the players, because literally 2 of the players are the same player. The Blankas and the Lukes are literally the same players between the top 4 of Singapore and the top 4 of France. Literally the same 2 players, which means right now Chris Wong and Mena RD might be the 2 best players on the planet. To be this consistent, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Chris Wong got second place and then first place in 2 premieres in a row, dude. That's wild. That is absolutely wild. Chris Wong from Hong Kong playing at a completely another level. Mena has not qualified. He got second at Evo, 4th in Singapore, and second in France. So in the 3 instant qualification tournaments, he's got second, 4th, and 2nd, and he hasn't qualified yet. So I will say one thing, and this is just an aside completely, but we really need to get back to a point system here, because there's no excuse for Mena RD not being qualified for Capcom Pro Tour already at this point. The character, I mean, the player is clearly too strong right now, so... Yeah, the auto qualifiers and all that, the region locked events, etc. So there's a lot to discuss about that, but you know, maybe I'll talk about that in a little bit later on afterwards. Just continuing to analyze these stats. This is just really fascinating here. And you know, what do we take away from this? Well, my first thing that I'm going to take away from this is that I'm changing my top 5 cast, right? My top 5 cast originally, if I'm not mistaken, was Ken, Luke, JP, and then I had Blanka, and then I think I put, what did I put? Guile? It was one of those, but I think the top 5 clearly right now in the game are in no order, but this is my order, would be Ken, Luke, Blanka, Ken, Luke, JP, then probably DJ and Chun-Li. I really think that's like the top 5 at this point, because DJ and Chun-Li have been showing up really strong at all of these events over here. Again, the DJ army is rising up, and while we had fewer DJs, I mean, we still had 2 in top 16 and 2 in top 16. Yeah, so in both events we've had 2 DJs, and then Moke in Singapore being a Chun-Li representative who basically did amazing. And then in the France premiere, Valmaster with Chun-Li going up there. So I think that's kind of one of the things that we need to take away from this. I did create this little spreadsheet over here so we can track each character's progression through the actual tournament, through the top 64 here. But let me actually change this. So Blanka became 2, Honda became 4, and who was the last one that we had? We had a Blanka became 2, Honda became 4, Dawson became 3 is what it was. So this is what we have here. So Blanka, again, carried by Mena. Cammy, this is one of the big ones that stands out to me. 7-1-1, and then just disappears. And it was just Mizuha doing work over here. But Chun-Li here, we go from 4 to 3 to 1-1-1. DJ stays, I mean, DJ's performance, look at this, 5 to 3 to 2 to 2 to 1. He never dropped by more than half during that entire run. And Dalsum, clearly a very strong character, but again, this kind of talks about Dalsum's weakness, is that Dalsum is probably a top 5 character in the game if you can play perfect the whole time. The problem is Dalsum is so difficult to use and really hard to be consistent with. Honda did decent here. 4 of them in top 64 is impressive, but then just kind of dropped off. Guile here was largely carried by Knuckledew, but the 4-4 from top 64 to top 32 is very telling outside of the fact that, you know, there are no JPs. So, like, that might be one of the reasons why the Guiles did as well. Jamie, clearly a very weak character. Even though there was a half representation in top 32, this was an attempted counter pick, and I think it failed. So, literally, Jamie could theoretically be 0 in both of these here. Honestly. JP, again, I think that this is a complete outlier. We can't take anything away from this except that I think that he might actually legit be weaker than Ken and Luke. Jury, again, along with Cammy, I think Jury and Cammy are significantly weaker than people think. And this is kind of what I've felt about Cammy for a while. Obviously, I haven't played a lot of Jury, but I've had a lot of discussions with Jury players who definitely think that Jury is overrated. And the data that we're getting from all these events really is kind of saying that, yeah, Jury might be overrated. And then, of course, Ken never dropping more than half except for 3-1. But do we really count that once we're whittling down to, 8 players here? Kimberly, interestingly enough, 3-1. But again, like Jury, like Cammy, just not doing particularly well. Lily, clearly a weak character here, carried by Kichipa. Could literally be 0-0-0 the whole way because Kichipa only bust out Lily, I think, for one particular matchup. I can't remember. But Luke from 6-5 to 2-1-1, again, like Ken, just so consistent of a character. Manon and Marisa both needing help here, and I believe the 0.5 is the same player, if I'm not mistaken, who used Manon and Marisa. I don't remember which player it was, but I think that both of these characters are carried by one player. Now, the interesting thing about Rashid, obviously the number is low to start with the top 64, but the fact that he's made top 8 2 tournaments in a row, and in fact, winning the Singapore premiere completely, I think this is an indication of his strength. And the reason why his number is so low in top 64 is literally because nobody plays Rashid. Like, there are so few Rashid players out there. And I think a lot of people, thanks to Gachikun and Oil King, are being very encouraged. And I think the Rashid players will go up. 2 Ryus, pretty surprising to me. Down to 1, down to none. Not a surprise. Ryu, not a very strong character. And then, oops, I don't need this anymore. And then Zangief, again, carried by Kichipa. We had one other Zangief over here. I think this might be Veggie who made it this far. I can't remember now. I believe this was Veggie that made it this far. Again, it's just like looking at the way that the characters go right now. Like, if I really had to do a tier list, I mean, I would probably, So, again, Blanka I have really high up because I can't fight that character, but it might be a me problem more than anything else. But I think Blanka's still ridiculous. He still may go up. But based on results, I think it's pretty clear that Ken, Luke, JP, DJ, and Chun-Li are probably the top 5 right now. I think that's probably a good way to look at it. And again, what was interesting is one of the other videos where I did this kind of analysis, someone actually responded in the YouTube comments. I should have got his name. I apologize. You're the man for typing out this big, long, detailed analysis. But they mentioned that DJ has the second highest success at CPT events, whether it was the instant qualified online events, or the World Warrior events, or these offline events. Between all of them, Ken has the most success. And DJ is the character that has actually had the second most success. Not by a lot over Luke. Luke was 3rd, but DJ was actually higher. So I think it's time that we start talking about DJ properly, appropriately, as a top 5 character at this point. Japan has long put Chun-Li in top 5, and I think they're right. I think they're right. I think that's our top 5 for the game. But again, the most important thing to note here is that in this top, here, let me delete this row over here. In this, sorry, OCD. Okay, there we go. In this top 32, I think the most important thing here is, despite 4.5s over here, 4 characters with a 0.5 usage stat, the fact that they were even represented by a player at all, and the only missing characters were JP and Aki. And again, Aki a little bit weaker, but also the latest DLC character. So we may not have found the strongest, like we might not have gotten our Rashid Aki players out there at this point. But again, the problem with Aki right now is that she doesn't have an OD wake up, and Rashid does, right? And I'll always say that you cannot be a strong character unless you have an OD wake up. And so I really, really think that's one of the biggest situations we have for Aki right now, which is going to be holding her back from having strong results at an event anytime soon. But the fact that Aki and JP are the only characters that are missing from the top 32 is really impressive. And in the top 16, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters represented in the top 16, and 7 characters represented in the top 8. Everybody who sits here and tries to tell me that this game is not balanced is just objectively wrong. They're just objectively wrong, in my opinion. I think this game is extremely balanced. Don't you, Nathan? Sorry, those listening on the podcast. It's that time again. Mwah. Hi. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Nathan. Ho, ho, ho. Hi, Nathan. Look at Nathan. Look at Nathan. Look at the cutie little boy. Look at his pretty blue eyes. Mwah. Okay. Yeah, the game is balanced. The game is balanced. And like I said, while there are characters that are clearly stronger than every other character, as I said in a previous video, the big difference with this situation in games like Third Strike or ST is that a lot of the characters in those games literally have no hope. The top tier invalidate their existence, right? Old Sagat literally deletes like half the cast out of ST. Like, if you expect to win a tournament and you're using half of the cast, you will lose to old Sagat. You'll lose to a strong old Sagat player. Like, that's just gonna happen. And there's almost nothing you can do about it. Don't make me pull up that Cammy versus old Sagat footage. If someone knows what I'm talking about, please bring it up so I can show you what a low-tier character actually looks like. If you know what I'm talking about and you can find that clip of the Cammy versus old Sagat, please link it in the chat so you can see what a real low-tier match is, okay? The difference here is that in Street Fighter 6, every single one of these characters has the capability to win. They can win. And that's the important thing. That's the main thing to take away from Street Fighter 6. And I think after 2 offline premieres where we get all the best characters, that's basically, this is, I don't know. I think it's irrefutable proof. I really, really think. Try finding it on Twitter. There's a tweet that just has that one clip that shows the section of why the fight is literally impossible to win. And see if you can find a Twitter tweet of it. But yeah, that's kind of where my conclusion is. So again, just looking through all these results over here, I should have spreadsheeted out the Singapore premiere as well. I just didn't have a chance to. I didn't have the time. I started this way too late in the day. So... but yeah, this is kind of the situation that we have. Thank you, Mikey. Here we go. All right, let's take a look at this. Okay, so if you actually think this is not a bad matchup, let's see. Yeah, okay, I think this is the one. If you want to know what a low tier matchup looks like, this is what it looks like. When she jumped forward, she got swept on the landing. You saw that, right? As soon as she jumped forward, she got swept on her landing because you have no land blocking. You have no trip guard. So what are you supposed to do? This is a low tier matchup. She has no dive kick in Super Turbo. She has no dive kick. This is what we're talking about when we talk about bad matchups in old games. She has she has no trip guard, so she can't land and block. So literally, she could do nothing in that situation. And when she blocked the tiger shot, she's minus enough that Sagat just throws another one, and Cammy just has to neutral jump it anyway. If she jumps forward, Sagat sweeps her on the ground and then just goes back to it. Literally an impossible match. This is a 2-8 match. Maybe even a 1-9 match, and Cammy is full of these things. So again, in these old games here, literally some characters are deleted from the game by top tier characters. And so when you're talking about Street Fighter 6 and I hear people talk about like, oh my God, this character is so low tier, and you're just like, really? Like, really? Did you just see what happened there? And this is what we're dealing with over here. So, oh, cat is just sleeping on me. Nathan is rubbing his head all over my hand right now. Hi. I need to hug my cat after watching that Cammy match, dude. For those of you at home who listening on podcasts, just know that Cammy was neutral jumping every single one of those tiger shots, and she literally couldn't do anything except neutral jump them. And she just neutral jumped like 10 in a row, and there was literally nothing she could do. It sucked so bad. There are definitely ways that Cammy can try to approach this match. I've beaten some Sagats before in tournaments, but that's very, very rare. So yeah, this is what we're dealing with here. And so if anybody tries to tell you that Street Fighter 6 is not a balanced game, they're just wrong. They're just wrong. I don't even think I'm being subjective at this point. I don't even think it's subjective to say that Street Fighter 6 is really balanced. I really don't even think that I don't even think it's an opinion. I think it's literal fact here. So again, yes, do some of these characters need buffs? I've talked about how, for example, like, yes, clearly Jamie, Lily, and Zangief, and Ryu, and Manon, and Marisa might need a little bit of help. But like I said, they can win. Even Big Bird does super well with Marisa all the time. Big Bird, Angry Bird, by the way, not at this event. So, their character usage is not represented here. And that's the thing, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the dangerous thing. Zangief will be dangerous with buffs. All these characters will be dangerous with buffs, right? God, this cat is just rubbing his head against me. Look at this guy. He's... All right, Nathan. All right. What a good cat. But that's why you have to be careful. And that's why most people don't know how to buff characters. Most people don't know how to buff characters. I always tell the story of the guy on the Shoryuken forums who told me Cammy's dive kick in Street Fighter 4 should have been an overhead. He's like, it needs to be an overhead. They need to make like drill safe on block. They need to do, and I was like, you're turning her into the most broken character in fighting game history. And the guy was like, no, this would barely make her manageable. And I'm like, you have no idea how to play fighting games. I'm sorry. But literally, most of these characters here need just a tiny thing. If you gave Kimberly her ODDP back, that's it. She would be great. And again, most of the buffs for all these characters is just give them a way to get away from throw. That's really all you need. Like, right? Like, just give them a way to wake up with a move. That's like it. That's like it. If we gave Aki a way to escape from hits and throws, she would move up in tiers. If we gave, okay, Dulcim would be scary to do it with. I have a system by which to do it. I'll talk about this in the next section. So if you're watching this on YouTube, wait till this one gets uploaded, and then we'll talk about how I would fix Dulcim. Honda, if his EX headbutt just avoided throws, or if his butt slam avoided throws, that would be nice. I mean, JP and Ryu are the only ones that have the ODDPs, and they're still bad. Kimberly, if she had it, if her ODDP just worked, they'd be great. Like, that's it. Like, they would automatically be that much better characters and in the mix of things. If you made Manon have an ODDP, she would automatically be in the mix of things. If you gave Marisa a way to avoid throws, she'd be up there with everybody else. And same thing with Zangief. All these characters, if that's all you did to them, the game is already almost instantly balanced. Almost instantly balanced. I think that's just the way it is. See, that's the thing. If you gave Dulcim an OTG teleport, dude, he'd be the best character in the game. Like, he'd be the best character in the game. That's it. That's it. Gone. We're done. We're just done. So, yeah, and exactly. Like, if Jamie just started at 1.0 damage, and maybe Kimberly as well, because Kimberly starts at 0.9 damage and Jamie starts at 0.9 damage. Their supers that buff, their systems that buff them actually normalize them, although Jamie can get above 1.0, whereas Kimberly cannot. She literally goes from 0.9 to 1, which kind of sucks. So, but basically, again, all the characters very able to win. You can definitely pick a character and do well with them. And in fact, most of the people who are complaining about tiers and complaining about how strong characters are usually a lot of the intermediate players. And really, honestly speaking, intermediate level, the tiers don't matter as much, right? Because the JPs won't be optimized. The Kens and the Lukes won't be optimized. Now, those characters can carry the player very, very well, and so that's why it's hard to fight them. That's why Cammy and Jury are very strong, because Cammy dive kicks all over you. Jury just goes fireball in the drive rush, and you're like, what do I do? And life sucks, and there's ways for those characters to carry you into the higher levels. But again, you can't really be worried about tiers until you start getting into like master rank and stuff, because clearly it is possible to succeed without that. Jesus Christ, hang on a second. What is that? Where am I doing over here? Is it this one here? Yeah. Look at this guy over here. Look at this dude. Oh, sorry about all my soda cans. I'm a mess. I'm a mess. This is where the ADHD comes in. Oh God, what are you doing, Nathan? You are just in like supreme lovey-dovey. God, and now he's knocking everything over. Jesus Christ. Hi, buddy. Anti-Mage says Marisa also, but I have no clue how to nerf her buff. I'll get into that in the next section. Like I said, I'll talk about how I would fix a lot of this stuff over here. So, Nathan, dude, listen to this mess that he's made. I need to clean for sure. I'm almost in platinum. I'm sure I'd be there if Ryu would carry me. Gosh darn it. Yeah, Ryu's not carrying many people, unfortunately. But again, I just think that this is a strong indication that the game is very balanced. So looking at these stats, and again, the most glaring thing to me, like if I had to pick the biggest storyline from this, it's literally JP going from 3 in top 64 to being the first character, not Aki, to be zeroed. 0 character usages here. And even with someone as strong as Kyungster and maybe even Broski in this tournament, and like he didn't even make top 32. Now, obviously, we didn't have like the Kakerus or the Seos or, you know, a lot of those guys were at Tiger Uppercut, which also happened on this weekend, which was also some great matches. And just as an, okay, actually, you know what? You know what? The world balances itself out. The world balances itself out, and this is an indication of why there were no JPs at the France premiere. At Tiger Uppercut, the top 3 were JP, JP, and JP. So all of the JPs are in Asia, and clearly they didn't travel to Singapore, to France for the premiere. Okay, so that's the explanation right there. We have the explanation. Tiger Uppercut top 3 was JP, JP, JP. We ended the tournament with 2 JP mirrors after playing like 2 more JP mirrors earlier in the tournament. So there you go. That explains everything. That explains everything. Why we have no JPs here, because they all went to Tiger Uppercut instead. So there you go. Everything is straightened out. Everything makes sense. Like I said, the JP was just an anomaly. JP thing at this premiere, I believe, was an anomaly more than anything else. It's not an indication that JP is not top 3. Top 3 is still Ken, Luke, JP, without question. Without question. I don't think anyone could really argue that, except, like I said, DJ or Chen. Honestly, so yeah, a lot of people DQ'd. As some people have mentioned, a lot of Japanese players couldn't make it due to travel issues, and it's just the way it goes, right? It's a free to enter tournament. It's a free to every free to enter tournament. This is gonna happen, right? If it's free to enter, you're gonna get a gazillion DQs, right? So don't think of this as any sort of like, oh my gosh, the players are dropping off or they stop caring or, you know, whatever. It's if it's a free tournament, you're gonna sign up for it, maybe on the off chance you can make it. So I personally think Blanka's top 5. I think he's ridiculous, but that's not what the results show. Literally, Mena's the only one using him, but I do think Blanka's up there. I just think that Blanka's a character that requires a lot of tech and requires a lot of knowledge and requires a lot of practice. And a lot of the people who are strong with Blanka are tech monsters. So Wolfgang is a tech monster. Flash Metroid is a tech monster, right? Flash Metroid, obviously, very, very, very solid player as well. But, I mean, is he at the level that someone like Mena RD is at, right? My Mena RD doesn't have as much tech as these guys, but those other guys don't have the kind of talent that Mena RD has, right? If we were able to find 2 of these kind of persons and put them into one and also use Blanka, I think that would be really scary. So, like, I think that, you know, Mena could learn a little bit more Blanka tech. The closest thing that I've seen so far is Liang Liang from China, who doesn't travel much. But Liang Liang's Blanka is ridiculous. He is ridiculous. Like, when I watched Liang Liang's Blanka on an ICFC Asia, I was just like, So, I really do think, let me see if I can find this here. Where is my advanced search option here? Let's do Liang Liang J Chenzo, maybe that'll bring it up here. Yeah. So here is a match with Gachikun, who won the Singapore. This was after Gachikun won the Singapore. After Gachikun won the Singapore event, he fought up against Liang Liang Blanka from China. Now, keep in mind that Gachikun, sure enough, won the first round. So obviously, here he's won a game and 1 round. So he's down only 2 games and 1 game and 1 round of here. So it's pretty close. But this is Liang Liang is the closest thing that I've seen to this degree of a Blanka play here that he's absolutely capable of. And like Chun-Li in Third Strike, he's most dangerous with meter. So I feel like even though he lost the first round, that's something that maybe Blankas are going to fall into a lot. Like, this character, when he gets you in the corner, is just the most ridiculous thing, dude. I don't understand what you're supposed to do. Blanka Chan, I feel like, is almost broken. Like, I personally think Blanka Chan is kind of broken. But, you know, I don't have proof of that. That's the problem right now, is I don't really have any way to acknowledge, to be able to prove that that's the actual case. It's just, like, the thing about Blanka is what Flash Metroid told me is that Blanka's weakness, and that was a double perfect, mind you. That was a double perfect, mind you. The weakness of Blanka is that he doesn't have much neutral. And that I understand. But dude, once he gets you, like, I don't know. No, but see, here's the problem is that if he's in level 2, if he's actually in level 2 and throws out a Blanka Chan, he can combo you after a throw. He actually has a way to activate the doll and then throw. He's got a setup where he can basically drop the Blanka Chan, jump in the air, do the dive, activate the doll before the doll hits you, throws you, and then the doll hits you after the throw. And it's just like, oh, are his mix-ups better than Kimberly? Way better than Kimberly's. It's not even comparable. It's not even comparable, because if you activate Blanka Chan with the little hoppy thing, he stays there. And the Blanka Chan doesn't go away like the spray can does. And he gets 3 of them, unlike 2 for Kim. Now, Kim can reload her, so can Blanka via a taunt, so that doesn't really count. But still, and also, if he activates the hoppy Blanka, he gets 2 mix-ups on you while you're blocking it. He gets overhead or low overhead, and he gets to keep doing more stuff. Like, it's the Blanka Chan is like, I hate it. All right? I'm going to lose a little biases over here. I'm unbiased. I'm going to lose my unbiasedness here. I hate Blanka Chan. I think Blanka Chan is so broken. I hate it. And I think it's way too strong and, like, literally... Right. See, that's the thing. What does Kim have that justifies Blanka getting an OD wake-up, and Kim doesn't? If Kim gets an OD wake-up, she's not even as good as Blanka. This is why we don't balance things based off of betas. We don't have all the characters there. Don't balance things off of betas. Leave Kimberly alone. Jesus. God. Okay. Back to professional, unbiased James Chen host. Fuck Blanka Chan. All right. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. So yeah, basically, you know, I do think Blanka's really strong. But I think right now results are showing those other 5 are in top 5. I would put Blanka 6 probably based off of the results and including a little bit of my biases now. But I really think that at this point in time that Chun-Li and DJ, their results are clearly showing that they have more consistency and more representation than Blanka does. And so based off of results and not personal biases, I think DJ and Chun-Li are stronger than Blanka. So that's basically what I'd have in this situation here. That's kind of how I would set things up. But again, you know, based off of the Singapore premiere, based off of the France premiere, again, if we look at the Singapore premiere again, just so we can take a look at this, in top 8, we had 7 characters. We had 7 characters in the France premiere. In top 8, we have 7 characters, right? So let's take a look at the overlap on this, because the overlap is going to be really close here. So in France, we've got a DJ, and we've got a DJ, right? We've got a Blanka, we've got a Blanka. We've got a Chun-Li, we've got a Chun-Li. We got a Guile. And we got a JP, interestingly enough. This is the discrepancy, which makes sense because JP kills Guile. We have a Ken and a Luke, and we have a Ken and a Luke, and we have a Rashid and a Rashid. Really, really interesting here for me that the representation is exactly the same except for JP and Guile. Is that our top 9? And you know, it's not wrong. Like, I've had these characters kind of in the top 9 at this point. The only characters that are missing from this list right now that I have up there are Cammy and Jury. But they might be the weakest of the characters. They might actually be 10th and 11th at this point. Like the top 9 might actually be these 9 characters represented in these 2 tournaments here. And then Cammy and Jury are probably 10 and 11, to be honest with you. And then Marisa, like right behind there. That is a very logical and legit tiering, I think. And so, again, the one thing that you can say about all top 9 of these characters, ODDP, 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 and then JP, not actually an ODDP, but at least it has something that can counter throws and attacks. It has a lot of weaknesses compared to ODDPs. Obviously, it has a strength compared to ODDPs. But yeah, Ken, Luke, JP, I think are number 1. And then, of course, let's actually see if we can take a look. Let me go to High Fight's channel over here. Because we will watch the clip that makes us understand that perhaps Luke is better than Ken. Because he had the fight against Valmaster. And when you see the fight against Valmaster, you're like, okay, actually, we could just do the Capcom Cup one, the Capcom Cup official tweet.
Point, both players. Oh my God, what a treat! Come on.
And again, the patience exuding to unprecedented levels here, but Chris Wong has a super meter advantage here, and it is huge.
This is Francis Valmaster with Chun-Li, and this is what you're going to expect from a footsie game between these two, honestly. This is kind of what you want to expect, you see? As soon as Chris tries to jump, he gets beat up, and see, he jumps and he gets beat up again. So this is looking great for Valmaster right now. What a great start for him. Just punished 2 jumps over there. Oh, Chris gets a hit. He gets a hit. Oh, is this the one? No, this isn't the round. Okay, hang on a second. This isn't the one. Where is it? Where is the clip? That's not the clip over there. Oh, unless it's the second round. I think it might be the second round, actually. Yeah, I think this is both rounds here. No, it's not, because this is already the end of the round over here. Shoot, where's the clip? See, this is what I mean. I'm really bad at finding clips over here. So these are on November 4th. So where is the High Fight clip? So there's Chris Wong winning here. Where is it? Dude, why am I so bad at finding these things? I'm sure High Fight tweeted this. I know High Fight tweeted this. Oh, that's a different one. Does anybody, I mean, somebody out there clearly knows what I'm talking about here. And I'm trying to find this stupid round over here. Why can't I find it here? Am I just this bad at finding anything on the internet? I swear to God, I am the worst person at finding anything on the internet. Ugh. All right, you know what? Dang it. Oh, does Kiko Master have it out there? Okay, yeah, I think this is the one. I think this is the one. So let's take a look at this. So let's see this here.
Weekend we've seen him look human. Valmaster continuing where he left off. Gets the juggle.
He's on level 3.
Oh, yeah, this is the one. This is the one because I remember he misses that juggle here. Okay. So again, Valmaster with a big lead here. Thank you, Haru. Okay, gets a back throw.
Because Valmaster, he does have the options. I don't think he's that kind of guy.
So, obviously, since this is my channel, not Sajam's channel, we're going to play a game of Is It Gonna Kill? Is it gonna kill at this point? So, we are playing Is It Gonna Kill here. This is Chris Wong versus Valmaster. And Valmaster has 70% life here. Let's play this game. How many people think it's actually gonna kill? How many people think it's gonna just be shy? All right, we're gonna go here. Let's do this.
And he blocked. That was blocked. He tried to anticipate something. This is not good. And he's in burnout.
Massive for Chris Wong.
But he can't be too hasty with the stun. He cannot be too hasty with that stun. He's gonna go. He's gonna go for it. Wow. He is going for it.
Beautiful. That
Right.
could be a dead chunk.
This.
CA, right?
No, I think he's got spec of health.
Really?
There's too much scaling.
Hey, Jammer's on back on form stand.
What?
Oh, yeah, Chris Wong.
One reason why some people might actually consider Luke the best character in the game. If anybody is wondering why this did so much damage here, I'll explain it to you. Crouching medium kicks scale a lot, cancels scale a lot, and stuff like that. But here we go. Heavy attack, 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 special, level 3.
That could be a dead chunk.
This.
CA, right?
No, I think he's got spec of health.
Really?
There's too much scaling.
There was no scaling in that combo whatsoever. There was no scaling. I mean, it's just the standard scaling. But again, level 3's never dropped below 50. It was a critical art. And yeah, we have actually tested it. And we have found combos that do literally like 6,900 damage and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. So there is the reason why some people think that Luke might be the best character in the game. And when you see that, you're like, yeah, maybe, could be. Actually, yeah. It's actually kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, some characters, 70% in one combo off of like a real kind of like setup. I've seen Rashid do that kind of damage off of the counter hit Eagle Spike into level 2 into like Eagle Spike into Eagle Spike into Eagle Spike into Eagle Spike into level 1. I've seen that before, but like this one, that was way too practical. That was way too practical. So, Marisa doesn't count, dude. Marisa doesn't count. We know Marisa could do that much damage. Man. Regardless. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. I've already kind of gotten through what I wanted to with these stats over here. So again, clearly, the game is very balanced, right? The game is extremely balanced. And we'll talk a lot more about that in the next section over here. How do we fix Street Fighter 6, right? And we'll talk about that more in that section. So again, if you guys are curious to see what I have to say about how I would fix Street Fighter 6, please tune in. Find this on YouTube, probably showing up tomorrow, I believe. So take a look for that. But for those of you who are on Twitch, just stick around and it'll be coming up right after a quick break. But again, objectively speaking, Street Fighter 6 is one of the most balanced fighting games of all time. I don't think that that's a question, especially for a launch game. For a launch game, like I think that this is almost kind of ridiculous. Like I almost think that, Jesus, what is wrong with my microphone stand? Is falling apart. Oh my God. My microphone stand, hang on, sorry guys. My microphone stand is falling apart here. It is doing, oh, you know what? That's it. It's done. I'll have to replace parts. But in any case, I don't even think that's a subjective viewpoint. I think that this is the most balanced fighting game, particularly for a launch product that is 4 months old, that we've ever seen. I just don't even think that there's a question about that. Like, the only other fighting game that's more balanced on launched is like Footsies. It's because there's only one character in the game, right? It's the only way that it could work. So shout out to the team, honestly. And I showed you the Sagat Cammy match. You know what bad matches actually can look like. So I don't feel like that there's any juice to people saying the game isn't balanced. Now, again, some of the characters need buffs for sure, and we'll talk about that in the next section. So that's all I have to say about the Singapore premiere. Obviously, let's talk. I do, obviously, congratulations, Chris Wong. Amazing job. Also, you know, if you're still pretty convinced that the game is unbalanced, let me know in the comments below as well. And if you're like, what are you talking about, James? This game is still super bro, JP. You know, feel free to let me know what your thoughts are on that. And if the Cammy Sagat matchup that you saw from Super Turbo didn't convince you that we are in a golden age of balance with fighting games, let me know in the comments. But as for those of you here on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And remember that the day, please make sure you like and subscribe. And the day that this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.